Hello, beautifuls. Welcome back to my Chanel. And my goodness me, do I have a little treat for you today, my loves? So, picture this, 2011, the United Kingdom, Channel 4 has commissioned a program called My Transsexual Summer. This is a documentary-style show which follows the lives of a group of trans people, and I'm guessing from the title of the show, their summer that they're experiencing.
Beautiful.
7 different trans people at different stages in their transition, and their story is documented by Channel 4 in this series that is 4 episodes long, I believe, an hour each, to recount their story to the public. So, my lovelies, I have managed to acquire this through semi-nefarious means, potentially. Don't come for me. No, Mr. Biscuits, don't arrest mummy. And that means that I am battling copyright, which is why in this video you'll see me having to do some interesting things to get around that.
Cancelled!
So, shall we start with why I wanted to do this, shall we? In the UK, and in fact across the Western world at the moment, there seems to be a huge pushback on the lives of trans people. It seems that the political nature has suddenly decided to focus or hyper-focus on trans people as a threat to society, and almost signalising the downfall of the world, girls, which is obviously utterly preposterous for 1% of the population, potentially 2%, depending on who you ask. So if you're new here and you don't know who I am, my name is Luxeria, and I am a transsexual woman. I will talk a little bit more about the term transsexual in a moment. From the UK, specifically London, I began my transition in 2012, which was about sort of 6 months to a year after this show aired in the UK. Does my watch taste nice? Do you like that? You weren't even a sparkle in your great-grandma's eye in 2011, were you, Mr. Biscuit? Now, and my personal story is rife with difficulties, excitement, joy, pain, shall we say. And I find that we're in an interesting position now where I don't think a documentary like this could be made. And I feel like we're going to have an interesting experience in today's video, because this is the first time we've reacted to a documentary here on the Chanel. I don't think a documentary could be made in the same way as this in this day and age. I did actually watch this when it came out in 2011, but that's 13 years ago. I've slept since then. I can't remember what that is. I can't remember what happened to me last week, let alone a TV show from 2011.
She's an old lady. I mean, look at her. She's old.
So we're going to watch every single episode here on the Chanel, my lovelies. I think I'm going to do about 1 per month. Interestingly enough, I have it on good authority that some of the cast members in this show actually like pop in and out of my channel every now and then to watch certain content. So that's going to be quite meta, isn't it? Maybe if you'd like to reach out, I can interview you after we finish watching the show. So, the word transsexual. Is it good? Is it bad? Is it outdated? Is it offensive? For me, I actually describe myself as a transsexual woman. And the reason why is because it accurately, in sort of like a biochemical and biological sense, explains the medical journey that I have been on. I have undergone certain types of treatment to change and transform my sexual characteristics. Hence transsexual, which does come under the umbrella term of transgender, but that can also encompass people who don't necessarily transition socially or medically. So I feel like the word transsexual accurately describes my lived experience. However, quite often, to make things easier, I'll just say trans woman, because that's like the easy term to understand, especially now that we have certain somebodies on Twitter deciding that cis is a slur, even though it's been in the dictionary since 2015, nearly 10 years. So, my lovelies, grab yourself a beverage. Today, I am on the Pepsi Max from a skull, because I have a feeling that in today's video, we're going to hear slurs, we're going to hear some difficult stories, we're going to hear some lovely stories, we're going to hear some lovely and difficult stories filled with slurs. I'm going to do my best to try and keep the slurs to a minimum. I know that YouTube doesn't like those slurs. However, there is a lovely little clause somewhere in the YouTube policy guidelines that means you're allowed to reclaim your own slurs. And I feel like this is the kind of thing where it's in the in-group, and in the in-group, you're allowed to call each other whatever you want, as long as it's consensual and fine. You know what I mean? So, my loves, are you ready to take this journey with me to explore the lives of 7 different transgender people from the UK in 2011, and slightly earlier? I don't know what to expect. I am a little bit nervous, a little bit apprehensive, because no doubt it's going to mirror some of the things that I felt myself, and sometimes those things are quite difficult to talk about. So, without any further ado, my loves, let's watch My Transsexual Summer, episode 1.
Used to be
Oh, we're just straight
girliest girl.
into it. Okay.
Blonde and curvy and dresses, handbags, heels.
Wow.
These days, I'm this kind of chubby, hairy guy, but I'm so happy. Like, I wake up every morning. And
Joy, trans joy. We need some of this.
People grow up and
Oh,
they
it's
want to
Drew!
be, say, like a doctor or like an astronaut. I grew up wanting to be a woman.
Thousands
Relatable.
of people in Britain believe they were born the wrong sex.
I've got these
Believe?
pants that have like a little pouch in the front.
Oh, I can't put that in. That's a packer, and I don't think I can put that in on YouTube now.
Now they're doing everything they can to change their gender.
That's what makes me a man, and without that, I would still look female.
But becoming
Oh,
a man
injections.
or turning into a woman can set the world against you.
Yes.
And it's full of risk.
Yes.
My family totally flipped out and were not supportive and did some really, really horrible things.
Oh, goodness me.
I shouldn't have to go through this. It's not my fault. I could easily just go back to being a boy, but then that'd be for everyone else. That wouldn't be for me.
Oh, we're going to see some emotion in this series, aren't we, my loves? Have you got your tissues at the ready? Because some of those things said there are highly relatable to me. I do find the language in this show is a little bit dated, like becoming a woman as opposed to like unveiling who you really are. It's a very point of its time, and I have a little inkling feeling that potentially, the narration and maybe even some producers in this show aren't in the LGBT and by extension the queer community as well. So the language is probably going to be very outsider based. So like, well, it means to just wake up and become a man because they want to change their gender, lol. And that's not quite how it is. That almost gives the vibe that like one day you're just walking in your garden and you just go,
That'd be fun. Maybe I'll try this lifelong, difficult process to try and make myself happier.
that's not how it happens. Usually it's a thing that is realised over time, and some of us have known for a very, very, very long time. So, with that being said, let's continue.
So, this summer, 7 people came together to help each other
a
change
shoe.
sex.
Ooh,
They
to
took-
help each other change sex. Oh, should we get a group of doctors all together and help them change sex?
Time off from the big bad world to create a safe
Oh,
haven.
look at that. Oh, can we move there? Can every trans person just be given a house like this, please?
To create a safe haven.
A safe
I
haven.
took so many hormones, I turned into a fanny.
To me, it's
Goodness me, what an unusual affliction.
They each took big steps towards changing their bodies.
Oh, another
This is
packer.
insane, look at this one.
Oh my God.
This is female to male finished. I'm the end of the process.
That's a cock to be proud of.
I don't want a huge one because I feel like it would sort of be a bit intimidating.
And they supported each other through the challenges of being transsexuals.
My family don't know about me yet. I want to tell them next week, actually.
Really?
In the first
Are we going to see also a coming out moment? Goodness me. Coming out as trans is probably one of the hardest things that you can probably ever do. I came out on the internet, so that's another layer of like absolute wildness that I invited into my life. But I can tell you, hands down, I'm infinitely more happier with my soul and my shell from doing that. Wow. Right, we're only a minute 50 in. Oh, goodness me.
weekend at the retreat,
I think I look like a bad...
Oh, first slur.
Sarah, who's only just started living as a woman, gets the help she needs. And Karen finally gets the genital surgery she's always wanted.
My body will finally match how I felt for years.
This summer, 7 people helped each other take on the world.
To the magic tranny 7.
Oh no, so many slurs. That's the thing though, in a strange way, that word, the T slur, was said so much more freely back then as almost like a term of endearment to point out kind of almost in a strange way how like ridiculous in a fun sense it is to actually go through this process. Like, to our sex change girl, like if you don't find some amount of joy in the journey, then like it's difficult, isn't it? I know that I've had really bleak times where I'm like, do you know what? This is not right, is it? This just isn't right. And then most of the time I've been like, this is the best thing I have ever had the wonder of realizing about myself. And what an excellent time to put in today's Twitch shout out. And that goes to Planchette TTV. Thank you so much for following me over on Twitch, you stunning woman on the go. And if you want to be in with a chance of being featured in my next video's Twitch shout out, make sure you follow me on Twitch. I stream every Monday and Thursday, my lovelies. It is Luxeria Plays. And with that, back to the program. My Transsexual Summer. Trans Summer. Oh, she's got a hashtag. Right, are they unpacking
From
in
Brighton
the
to
hacienda?
Merseyside, 7 people are packing for their first weekend together.
Oh.
It'll be the first time I've ever met anyone who's transgendered and who's my own age.
T. That is actually very important. I have only made trans friends through being able to do something like YouTube. I haven't known trans people really. Maybe one person I knew pre-YouTube, which was also through like MySpace, so technically still through the realm of social media. We are kind of rare in a way, like trans people are kind of rare, but we always have this ability to like find other people like us and we're drawn to each other. Quite often it does, usually at first, sometimes involve a bit of head clashing about like certain types of belief systems or certain types of like journey ideas, but then we're still a community. And I feel like, I don't know, maybe I'm gonna get a bit emotional in this episode because I don't feel like a huge part of the trans community. I kind of ebb and flow from the trans community in a way that's like, I'm not technically an activist. I do my activism through being visible and honest about my journey and who I am and where I see myself in the world. It's going to be interesting to see how people navigate, like meeting people their own age who are also trans, because it's quite rare. It's actually quite rare to be trans. Do you want to know? My technical diagnosis from the NHS is significant active transsexual. Isn't that fun?
I hope there's like people that are like me.
Oh, the excitement of meeting someone who knows what you've been through.
And it's made her life in Wakefield almost impossible.
I've probably got bigger balls than you.
See,
You don't
been
know
there, done that.
what people are going to be like, you know, when like you're walking past them, like they could easily like turn around and like hit you if they know what you are.
I think me and Drew are like the same age.
Drew still lives at home with her mum, but her decision to change gender has left her isolated. She desperately needs friends and a career.
It's not really a decision.
I just feel like everyone's life's moving forward and mine's just stuck like in the same position that it was like 5 years ago before I came out. There's personal things that like you can't really talk about to like an ordinary person because they wouldn't understand.
100%.
It's hard and it's lonely.
It can be quite
I
isolating.
think you can feel very isolated sometimes. You're one trans person walking around in a world of 6 billion non-trans people. So I'm really looking forward to being in a space where there's going to be people who have a shared experience.
Yes. Oh! Oh, pink doors. I think I'd quite like to partake in a show like this, actually. Maybe not now, because I feel like every time we watch a show being filmed like this now, we always hear about trans people being lied to about the premise of the show, full stop. Think about that recent film that was released and the company that produced it approached trans people as like, would you like to share your story? We'd love to hear from you. And then basically plastered their story all around the world as like, look at these freaks. Absolutely disgusting. I still feel like I would like to be involved in a show like this, mainly just because it feels almost like to experience something like this with people who are on a similar sort of journey to you must build this sort of like siblingness that I don't think I've ever really had. Oh, look at
It's
that gorgeous
August.
house.
7
August.
transgendered people are on their way for the first of 5 weekend retreats that'll be held over the course of the summer.
Trans people?
It's like everyone's dream home.
Yes.
It's like a fairy tale house.
First
Not
to
the leather
arrive
seats,
is Drew.
Sticky in the summer, freezing in the
I hope
winter.
I'm not like the trashy one compared to everyone. Like the overly done one.
There's nothing wrong with being a little tiny bit trashy.
Donna's next. Like Drew,
Donna.
she's been a woman for 5 years, but she's louder and prouder about changing her sex.
I think I brought too many clothes. It's a bit girly. For a I'm a bit manly.
And she's bringing...
Another slur. So this is something that I feel like a lot of trans people can relate to. So I'm not the girliest girly girl, frilly pink girl, trans girl. I very much am like leather and spikes and I also really enjoy like the gym, and I actually enjoy being a little bit athletic. I'm just not like other girls.
She's even worse.
I hope this show shows that there isn't one archetype of what a trans person is. I feel like it's not going to, but you never know, do you? I mean, like, it's Channel 4, it's quite unpredictable. I can't believe how, like, ally Channel 4 used to be, and now it's like the world has gone back like 30 years. I don't understand. Why has this happened? Shocking.
Some strong views to the retreat about what it is to be a trans woman.
Oh, me too, sis.
Am I a man or a woman? I don't think I'm either. I believe there's a third sex. It's nice to be able to have cleavage. I live my life daily as a woman. Oh, girl. But it doesn't mean that without my clothes on I look like a woman or look like a man, you know. Some of us,
piercings.
Have more than others, you know.
Some of us are a bit more complex than others, and I agree with that. I completely agree with that. There is a wonderful phrase that sometimes can be seen as a little bit offensive, and it's the phrase default settings. Some people live their life on default settings, and some of us have to go into the custom menu and sort some things out that potentially are causing bugs in this game we call outside.
I can't go into all that. I'm not spelling it out for you.
Right, are we going to learn more about Donna's story?
I can't. I'm excited.
Oh, it's a bit like the Swan.
It won't just be women at the house.
He's quite funky.
Lewis became a man 3 years ago.
Oh, the language of like, became a man is so, I don't know. I need to speak to some trans people about that, because I don't know, if someone described me as like, oh, she decided to become a woman 8 years ago or whatever, I'd be like, I don't think so.
Huge, isn't it? No one has ever mistaken me for a female or
Why would
been
they?
able to tell that I'm transgender.
Exactly.
So when I tell people, they're always shocked.
So there is a phenomenon in the trans community. The phenomenon? That's not the word. There is an aspect of trans life that can be known as stealth. I, in my day-to-day life, generally am stealth. Probably the one thing that's not particularly stealthy about me is my voice. Stealth is where you decide to come out to people who potentially are very important to you, and you decide to disclose to them that you are trans, but to everyone else, or who you decide to, they don't know and you don't need to know. It's like a you don't need to know basis. You know what I mean? So I don't think I've described that very well. I'll put an actual definition of stealth on the screen. Some trans people will live stealth their whole lives. Some people won't, and some people choose not to, and some people have a journey that perhaps doesn't involve necessarily being stealth. So there are so many different types of trans people within our quite rare trans community, and each of them have a journey and a story. And I think it's just like, people just want to be listened to, you know? They want to be listened to. A lot of the the like ignorance and hate that our community gets is from people who do not know trans people. They only know this one like media specific political idea of what a scary trans person is. And as soon as we make friends with those people, quite often their critical beliefs dissipate because they're actually like, oh, you're a human being. It's like, yes, I am a human being. I'm just on a slightly different journey than you are. However, sometimes that is not the case, and some people are just...
Fox has only just started becoming a
Hello,
man.
Fox.
I'm Lewis. Fox, nice to meet you. Yeah. Right before I came here, I was like, I'm in doubt, do you know what I mean?
What were you thinking about, like?
Because reality hit me that I'd be revealing to everyone loads of like private things, and everyone would know as well that you know, like transgender.
But Fox has very different worries. Being so early in his transition, people struggle to tell if he's male or female.
It's a really awkward time, but it was kind of do or die for me. And so I know that I've got to go through this to get to a place where my outside reflects my inside.
I feel like if you're going to undergo medical transition alongside social transition, there definitely is this like tipping point of like you're kind of misgendered up until a point, and then suddenly it doesn't happen anymore. And then like occasionally you can go months and months and months and months and months without being misgendered, and you're like, oh, hang on, and it can kind of snatch you back to that feeling of like the in-between, or like the early journey, the early part of the journey. For me, occasionally I'll be misgendered on the phone, and that's where I'm like, I don't think so. If this was a video call, you would never.
I assumed that Fox was a transgender guy.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Reflects my inside.
I assumed that Fox was a transgender guy.
Yeah,
He looked like a guy, so I just assumed. If I've got it wrong.
Yeah, he
then
looks a bit
I'm very
twinky.
sorry. Hello, I'm Lewis.
Hi, it's Miss Andrew.
I'm Fox. Hello. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you.
Oh, isn't it nice seeing people get along? I wonder if there's going to be any like debates or arguments about like the journey.
How are you?
Third man into the retreat is Max. He's done the most to become male.
He's done the most, doing the most.
I have no shoes on.
This is amazing. Could this be my bedroom?
Bedroom in the kitchen. A
All of
microwave
them
for
have had
one's
to weigh up the
pillow.
likely risks of coming out as transgender on television.
Are you obliged to come in there?
I didn't even think about that. This is in the era before, like... well, actually, no, this is kind of in the era of coming out on YouTube, but still YouTube was not necessarily in its infancy. It was kind of in its, like, toddlerhood. And I feel like going on a show like this and broadcasting it to millions is going to be the first taste for some people of, like, actually revealing part of your story. So, is it gonna get heavy, girls?
Yeah.
Did any of you have like reservations? Because like my worry was that like even though I get shit, you know, like on the street now, by doing this, it would make it a lot worse because I'd be open to everyone about it.
If you're out and trans, it almost gives people a license and they can ask you whatever they want. Like, like their curiosity is just open season.
Like the amount of guys that come up to me and just go, are these real? And grab my tits.
Yeah. As soon as you explain to them, no, like, how would you feel if I met your mum and was like, so, how's your junk? You know, what have you got between your legs? You would be so upset if you said that to your mum or your sister or... I think I come across as like a hugely confident person, but I'm always nervous all the time. Based on
Relatable. There really is a phenomenon about being trans that sometimes it can be perceived by cis people that they can kind of ask us anything about our body or our journey, and that we're kind of expected in a way to provide information, almost like a sort of like, I don't know, like we're immediately expected to become an educator in that moment. And quite often, like a lot of us are like, do you know what? I'm just in Sainsbury's. Can you not touch my breasts, please? It's a bit of a strange conversation to have because sometimes, in fact, I would say most of the time, it comes from a place of like ignorance and maybe not understanding the social boundary of like, you can't just molest people and be like, are these real? What have you got between your legs? And when did you do all that? Like, it's not really appropriate in that sort of time. If I decide to tell you, that's fine. And I guess in certain circumstances, it's okay to ask. But the majority of the time, like, a lot of us are just trying to live our lives and without like trying to assume an educator role at any split second of the day.
2009 statistics, a trans person is murdered somewhere in the world every 72 hours. And I think I experience a certain degree of fear most of the time. Here, maybe not so much. We'll find out.
Very much so.
We'll do it.
Someone's coming in. Someone's coming in.
Oh, who's next? Hello.
Hiya.
What's your name?
I'm Sarah.
Sarah.
Sarah's 29. She's only just started living full-time as a woman. She hasn't even dared to tell her parents yet.
Yeah, we're sort of...
Dear, going on TV without telling your parents. Oh,
Lewis.
Hello.
Nice to meet you.
You alright?
Yeah.
Cool.
I have a bit of a harsh attitude towards coming out to unsupporting people. I think it's very important to give them a chance to come around to potentially, you know, life-altering information. But also, at the drop of a hat, as soon as someone is disrespectful to me, I am like, cut off. You know? And I feel like maybe that's just because I am much more content to be alone by myself doing something hyper-independent as a trauma response. Oh my goodness me. We're getting deep and dark here today, girls. I am much more content to be hyper-independent by myself and invite other people along for the journey. But if they decide they want to get off on that journey, that's their decision and nothing to do with me. That has taken me a long time to get to that understanding though. And a lot of the time, if you come out as like a teenager, or you're under your parents' roof, or, you know, you're living with a family member or a friend that's not supportive, and you're worried about your future or your safety, my advice always in that situation is, I know how painful it is, but just wait until you're in a position where you can be independent, because if you are relying on someone and that person decides to become a lot less likable, then you are putting yourself at risk, and that is not something I will ever advise anyone to do on the internet.
Hiya. Hello.
I will say, Sarah does need to move the wig a little bit backwards.
This is really cool. Hiya.
Hi, sweetie. Have a glass of wine.
It's a nice top.
Amazing.
Have you got the wine?
You're not in AA, anyone, are you? Because if you are, you should have a drink.
Completing the group is Karen.
Oh, no one was at the door for Karen. Hello, Karen.
Hi, I'm Sarah.
Sarah.
Right.
Hi, Karen, I'm Fox. Nice to meet you.
And you too?
Hi, I'm Lewis.
In this situation,
She's
I'd be like,
spending the weekend
oh,
at the
and all of
retreat
these
before
names would
going
leave
to
my head.
hospital. There, she'll have the genital surgery she's wanted for years. It'll be a landmark for her in becoming a woman.
I see.
I just can't wait. Even though I know I am a woman, I still have got that part of me left that still says, you're male.
Yeah, is this everyone then? Yeah.
This is actually a really important thing to say. People's trans journeys are different. They're different from each other. If you think of it as like, I don't know, a long train line, and you've got the very beginning and the very end, if a trans person decides to go through social and medical transition through either being helped by doctors or doing it by themselves, then there is certain steps along the way of this like train line that sometimes certain trans people will say, that's enough. I'm okay at staying at this station stop for a while, maybe not forever, or absolutely, this is where my journey ends and this is where my transition stops. Some people go from one end all the way up to the other and get absolutely every single piece of help and advice that they can, and some people don't. And I think it's important to remember that that's nobody else's business but theirs.
I think so.
Right,
To the magic 7.
It's gonna be all swan honks.
Why aren't you making it to the pageant?
Right, here we go. What gorgeous willow tree. This location is excellent. What a great location they've
This
picked.
summer, 7 transsexual people are meeting for the first time.
And they're all drinking
They've come
wine.
together to help and support each other as they change gender.
You know,
Yesterday,
community
when I went
support is
shopping,
so
There was
required.
like these two like girls.
Yeah.
There was like, is that a boy or a girl? Haha. I look at you and I think like, I would never guessed with you.
You look really great, like honestly.
Really?
See, I always think when people are like, oh, I never would have guessed. I'm like, oh,
No.
come on.
Being all trans together
We are our own worst critics. I am very guilty of this as well.
means that they can talk openly about their new identities.
Choosing a name was so hard for me.
Is it new identity or is it
What
revealed
other
identity?
names did you think of?
I created a short list,
Of how many?
like 100 names.
T, been there, done this.
And my best friend Liz, she was like, Max, I hate to break it to you, but these names are all a bit pansy. I was like, no, they're lovely names. And she was like, Timothy, pansy.
Are you in the garden?
Good crowd. Bloody good crowd. There's some nutty ones though.
Well, it kind of comes with the territory.
She's definitely going to be a handful.
Go! You're such a hoe. I love it.
Seeing someone like Lewis, he gives me major beard envy, obviously. And yeah, he's quite hench as well. He's good at his bench pressing and stuff like that.
You are quite cute though.
You're embarrassed here. No, but
Look
Oh,
at
he's
it
got
on
all
Tinder.
pink.
yeah. So anyway,
Flirtatious women in the boudoir.
To mark the start of the retreat, a room's been turned into a photo studio.
Look, here's the camera.
oh no.
America's Next Top Host.
Come on, boys and girls, let's take pictures of you.
Oh,
Look
this
at
would
that.
be nice.
Ooh.
Glam.
It's up to the group how they use it.
Girl, you're such a hooker. Man.
Oh.
Being in front of the camera is very intimidating. I think a lot about how my body will look to other people and if they will be judging me.
Goodness.
Today.
Lots of these things go hand in hand.
Look at
Oh
you.
my goodness. A boob.
Wow. Go for it.
It's nice to be in a group
it's a
where you're the
cannon.
best looking woman.
What?
Is that relieved to be in a group where you're the best looking woman? Is that
I
really
mean,
mean?
Yes, a little bit mean.
No, it's
Donna.
not mean if it's true though, is it?
It's a bit mean, Donna.
Yeah.
I look at photographs of me now and I'm really happy with like how masculine I look, and it just feels like sort of somebody else, really, when I'm looking back at old photos. It's like me dressing up as a girl for like an act or something.
Scream at each other.
I will say this is a very interesting phenomenon. Having old photos of you as a child, like around your parents' home, for example, is odd to look at because it's kind of like that person still exists, but they're very different now. So for me, it's a case of I was on YouTube since 2006 and I only really made progress in my trans journey in about 2013 to 2015 was when it started really taking place. Now I look back at some of my old content and I was like, when I started this new channel, I was like, that has to go. Like, I can't have that public. For my own mental well-being, I do not want that public. And I know a couple of people every now and then are like, would you put up your makeup tutorials from back in the day? And I'm just like, no, they are personal enjoyment for me only. And even then, they're not really that enjoyable. Sometimes I'm like, you know what? My techniques, my expertise was great, but it's just very jarring. It's a jarring experience. And unless you've gone through something like kind of similar, it's kind of difficult to explain how it makes you feel. Some people don't feel anything. They're like, yeah, it's fine. I'm a bit like, I'd rather not. That. Oh, a pillow, fine, naughty.
I'm gonna hate photos.
Oh, I don't know. Just be yourself.
The best photos of me is when I didn't even know the photo was being taken and I'm just grinning like a twat.
Just be natural. Sarah, do you want to do it?
Not really. They all look amazing. They really do. And it just makes me more aware of what I see as my failings.
My God, a
failings? That's a strong word.
I think I look like a bad...
I've been there. I felt like that. It definitely is the aspect of medical transition and social transition is harder for some trans people than other trans people. I don't feel like I am wrong in saying that, but again, it's all down to how you personally feel as well and your own ambitions. Unfortunately, medical transition costs so much money. Some countries in the world, it's available to be undergone by like insurance companies, or certain companies will happily pay for that. In the UK, you get one surgery on the NHS, and there's something like an 11-year waiting list for that, and that's SRS. And I actually believe for trans men, the surgeon that was doing the operations now no longer is part of the NHS. So it's like there isn't a surgeon available to do a certain type of surgery for trans men in the UK. Just unavailable on the NHS. So it's one of those things where it's a costly thing. For me, I had to make many sacrifices to get my body to where I think it should be. And it's been a very difficult thing to do. If you've watched my facial feminization documentary that I did last year, I think you'll get a sense of how like difficult it can be to undergo something like this. For me, without the help of crowdfunding, which is now a new phenomenon, really, it wasn't really around in 2011 or earlier. Without the use of crowdfunding and without the generous support of the people who watch my content here and enjoy my Instagram and my Twitch, I very much would have been years behind my journey than I am now, and I'm very thankful about that. And I realize that I'm also in a very privileged position because it's not luck. Luck isn't the word I want. It's just that certain procedures feel like more pressingly necessary in certain circumstances. As I say, every trans person is different. Every trans person's medical journey or socially transitional journey looks different. And some of us have a longer road than others, I think.
Just 4 weeks ago, Sarah moved from her home in Jersey to start a new life in the UK.
Jersey?
Got everything I own in my car. Got all my
Why is my
all
eye on
clothes,
fire?
And that's about it. I don't have much belongings.
Oh, goodness.
Jersey has no medical facilities to help her change her gender, so moving is the best way she could get the hormone treatment she needs to become a woman.
I wonder if that's changed now. There's just no... I mean, Jersey is a relatively small island in the English Channel. Is it Jersey and Guernsey? Do they really have nothing? I feel like that's a bit unethical. You can't just, like, not provide any treatment at all. Wow.
What's the name, sir?
I mean, for years I was ashamed of it and hid it from anyone.
We've just seen a very unfortunate situation. If someone is making the effort to present in a certain way, I feel like it's just respectful to acknowledge that presentation. How often in going through like day-to-day life do you see like cis men looking like Sarah? Very, very, very rarely. Rarer than encountering a trans person. Although this is 2011 and attitudes were obviously very different. I feel like attitudes back then were a lot more ignorant rather than necessarily spiteful. I might be misspeaking there because I was around in 2011. I was around in the nightclub scene. I was around, you know, in some of the biggest cities in the UK. And I don't know, maybe it's a difference between city life and country life. Oh, lots of questions today, my lovelies. If you've had any experiences that you want to share that are somehow relatable to the stories that we're watching today, please share them in the comments, because the more we talk about our journeys, the more honest we can be with our friends and our families and with our local community.
There's still parts that you can't really speak to people about.
100%.
And there's still parts that you have to keep hidden.
There are still parts that I can't really speak about to my friends because it's unrelatable content.
After she arrived in Britain, Sarah headed for Swansea. She knew no one.
Swansea
In
girls!
her rented room, she finally felt free to start living full-time as a woman.
Okay.
Where are my boobs? These are my very
chicken
dirty
fillets.
silicone boobs.
Can I show that on YouTube?
I don't like them very much. I don't like the way they feel, but they give a really good illusion under clothes. So, I'll show you a little trick. What you do is you pull them out, and then you basically pull all the fat from under your armpits, and you just kind of squid it in. And with a tight bra, you're left with a bit of a cleavage. This definitely is how it should be. I'm still very much a guy in a dress. There's a long, long road ahead of me, but there is no future for me as a guy. I don't fit in. I'm not comfortable. I hate myself. But dressing up in a dress, you know, it gives me hope. Hope for a better life for myself.
I don't know if potentially most people understand that phrase right there, that sentence of like, there is no other option. If this wasn't the case, if there was something else that would likely be chosen over the decision to transition. That's such a realization, isn't it? Goodness me. Right, okay.
Don't pose.
No, just be yourself, Sarah.
Put your hand on your hip.
Right, put your legs like that.
Give me an
Arms forward.
Put your legs straight.
Tilt the pelvis.
Put your left arm onto your...
Sometimes femininity comes naturally, sometimes it doesn't. Just like masculinity comes naturally, or you have to learn it.
So I come into the house, I was like, right, I want to personally be the one to make sure she's okay. I think we can all use help sometimes.
Absolutely, absolutely. This house is so lovely. I wonder where Donna's
While
top
the
is
photographs are developed, everyone's
Spaghetti.
downstairs helping to get dinner ready. But the photo shoot has upset Fox and reminded him how far he has to go to become a man.
Yeah.
I think that perhaps being in this house with a bunch of trans people, I can't really help but compare myself to other people. I'm the earliest in my stage of the guys that are here. And it's just really obvious. I kind of feel, not embarrassed, but I feel kind of bad about that.
In the bath and pretenders, yeah.
Oh yeah, 100%. And now in the era of social media, the amount of times that there are certain trans women that come across my Instagram page and I'm like, genetic lottery says, what I wouldn't give to have a shred of that. But I also have to say that we only ever see in certain circumstances what the other people want to show us, or we don't live another person's experience. We only see like short facets of those people. So comparing yourself is absolutely something that is almost like naturally human in any sort of sense of the word. But it's also important to remind yourself that, yes, you can have those thoughts, but maybe try not to dwell on them too much, because that will take your mind to a very dark place. And I feel like this can be said to something even that's completely unrelated to being trans. Like, we've all felt the need to compare ourselves to other people, whether it's through our career, how we look, how we're doing on a certain journey in our own lives that maybe is not related at all to transition. And it's very, very important to take note of how other people are doing, but not to dwell on them. You can have those feelings, but you have to move past them, because otherwise the mind has a wonderful way of making everything just worse if you think about it too much. So trying not to be like new age, like, oh, just don't think about it, girl, you'll be fine. Like, try not to dwell on those thoughts too much, because quite often it doesn't lead us to a healthy outcome, or a healthier outcome, should I say.
Photographs are ready. Now they'll be able to judge themselves.
We've got a printing press in the home.
Don't no one look at it until we all sit down.
Together.
Go.
Oh my god, I look so glam. I've never looked so good. Let's see. You look quite cute and like innocent.
She looks really happy.
Photos of me. I've never liked mirrors or I've never liked to look at myself. I've got fake hair, I've got fake boobs, and I've got a horrible nose. I feel different on the inside than how I look on the outside, you know?
These pictures like symbolise a point in our
Relatable.
transition.
Yeah.
Like, by the end of this, we might be different and we can compare.
I don't like it at all.
Why do you not like it?
Why?
You look double hard.
Yeah, it's cool.
I think.
You look like a chav.
Hey, so much better back to
Not a
There ain't no
chav.
wrong with chav.
Do you know what? No, you have.
Donna said I look like a chav. And Sarah said that I looked well hard, which is two things I just don't associate with myself. I'm like a geeky Jewish book nerd that likes vegan cooking and crafts. I'm a well hard.
That's also very
and
valid.
I really like reading the Bible. I studied a really good piece of the Talmud the other day. Yeah. What are you looking at? You know?
I feel really vain because I really like my photo.
No, you should. It's absolutely brilliant.
Very
I think I look really
2000s.
girly, so I don't like it at all. I don't have a beard. Really girly, so I don't like it at all. I don't have a beard or anything.
Yeah, well, not all guys have a beard.
A beard doesn't make a man, though, eh?
I didn't like the way I looked. I didn't like the bags under my eyes. I don't know. I didn't really like how feminine I look. And I am impatient to change.
There is a danger of feeling very impatient in your transition and wanting to push things faster than they potentially should go. If you're going down the medical HRT route, which I think Fox in this situation is kind of explaining with the beard situation, there is a tendency to sometimes want to take the most to get like a fast response. But essentially, with medical transition, you're going through puberty, quite often a second puberty. And if you think like how long the first puberty took, sometimes it can take 3 or 4 years to go from a starting point to an end point. And in a second puberty, technically, you're already going from a point of somewhere down like the line to almost adjacent to that line. So it's going to take a while. I do, however, feel, I'm going to say this, am I going to be naughty in saying this? I do feel sometimes, because the world of trans healthcare is still quite stigmatized by cis doctors, that quite often they're like, we need to put you on the lowest thing for as long as possible. It's very dangerous. Are you sure you want the side effects? Side effects of testosterone include beard growth. Do you want a beard? And it's like, well, obviously in like most cases, I would assume that a trans man would like facial hair. So it's like, well, yes, that's the point. I feel like sometimes, maybe not all the time, sometimes GPs, doctors, specialists are reluctant to move people at a swifter pace through HRT. I'm not saying everyone should be moved through swiftly, because you need blood tests, you need to be able to make sure that your body is coping very well. Medicine affects people slightly differently. Some people will get worse side effects from something. We have a plethora of ways to do it now. I feel like sometimes, especially in the UK on the NHS, there's like one route, and it's like, actually for me, that didn't do everything that I feel like I wanted from it. So, I don't know, like sometimes I'm just like, do you know what, doctors? That's why it's called like patient care agreement. It's like, I want to also have a hand in how I am being cared for, you know? I don't know. That's just me though, girls. Oh, little kisses. Did they eat the spaghetti? How many does it take to make spaghetti? 7. Oh, they're all in the lake. What was that? The Swan Girls!
It's Saturday, 7 a.m, and Drew is the first to get up.
7 a.m. on a Saturday. Oh, is this glam moment?
The morning is the most difficult part of her day.
When I first wake up in the morning, when I look in the mirror, like, I don't really
That
see
looks like a good moisturiser.
the person I want to be. Like, I just see, like, someone else. I think that's why I wear lots of makeup, just to, like, kind of cover that.
Well, makeup is 100% a tool in transition.
Pictures of, like, Jodie Marsh and people in the glamour model industry. They're, like, seen as the most, like, desirable women. And to me, you know, that's what I wanted to achieve with my look.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes a little touch of bimbo
At
slut is
home in
actually quite
Wakefield,
cute.
Drew's mum has helped her son become a woman.
Hiya, you alright?
Alright, yeah.
Which one? The end, French manicure. When Drew started doing her transition, the makeup was very, very OTT.
Thank you.
She always walked with her head down. And I said to her, you need to hold your head up.
Oh, supportive mummy.
People are going to look and say, is it a boy or is it a girl?
I know deep down.
Do you know, years ago, years before my transition, when I was in primary school, I would always be asked that question. Are you a boy or a girl? Are you a boy or a girl? It's like, that's a trick question, really, because any which way you answer is a problem. They're not asking that question to you to actually find the answer. They're asking that question to you so that they can ridicule your answer. It's like a bully tactic. It's not like a legitimate question. The only time it's ever a legitimate question is if you've played any of the early Pokemon games and it asks you, are you a boy or a girl? Because it decides your avatar. That's it.
Man features, you know, like that. I think the makeup kind of tries to disguise that.
I also had interestingly enough, I also had a similar journey to Drew here in terms of my makeup journey. Before my transition, I was an androgynous boy and I would wear really dramatic makeup because I loved the transformative aspect of it. And I loved being that kind of like internet-based, social media-based, like neon unicorn that goes to the clubs, that kind of club kid vibe. In fact, actually, it became my career for a short while. When I transitioned and I realized that actually more makeup is kind of detrimental to the idea of what I would consider like passing or living in my day-to-day life. Since having FFS, I have found that I can wear a lot less makeup to achieve the look that I want. And that alone is a journey in itself, like a micro transition of like, oh, I've learned these habits that maybe aren't helping where I need to be. So maybe I need to like redress those habits. It's a very interesting, there's so many facets to transition that are like, you only really think about them as you're approaching them and you're like, oh, I need to change as well.
Kind of like a mask. The more you have on, like, the more you feel like a woman.
So like every other morning, Drew will spend the next 2.5 hours in front of the mirror.
Oh wow, 2.5 hours.
In their rooms,
Mind you, if she's
the
got
other
like
women
long
prepare
blonde hair as well, that
themselves for the
takes a while to care for.
It's not hairy hands.
Also, I'm going to say something here. It does, when you're first in transition and you are putting on makeup and like getting dressed and like any sort of body modifications you need to put on, like padded bras, etc. It does feel like you're doing drag. And sometimes that in itself can feel a little bit like imposter syndrome as well. It's a difficult like mental space to have to navigate.
I don't know, are the girls in bed or just they probably
I
get
imagine that they've got the palette out. Right? Is that what they're doing?
Well, also they're on TV, so they obviously want to look their best as well.
I will make up, yeah, and I don't miss it at all, but I do think it's a little bit unfair. Like if girls have got like a pimple or, you know, they can cover it up and feel better about it, whereas when you're a bloke, you just have to like man up.
I feel like this is also a little bit of like tea as well, especially back in 2011. Like the average man on the street would not be like, I'm going to put some foundation on. Everyone, my lads at work will love this. Like very that. Nowadays, a little bit different. I feel like there is a shift of the tides, especially with brands like Wall Paint, even though I don't particularly think it's a necessary thing, but there we are. The idea of men wearing cosmetics to just lightly improve the way they look is like commonplace now. Obviously, I'm a professional makeup artist. I was in the industry and still am in the industry for 16 years now. If I was doing some makeup on a bride, quite often, if there was a male nearby, perhaps the groom or some such, I had a situation once where the groom was like, oh, I've got this really terrible patch of skin here, and can you make my beard look fuller? Easy. Apply the cosmeceuticals. No one will tell if it's applied well. Also, anytime you're watching a man on a news show, he is full Cryolan male drag, sis. That's a nice mirror.
In his room, Fox is frustrated by what he sees in the mirror.
When I look in the mirror in the morning, I think I look just like I think I look like a lesbian. I look like a butch woman.
Slur. Fox wants a man's physique, so he always hides his breasts by wearing a chest binder.
Oh, yes. Is this the first mention? Okay.
When I wear shirts, I prefer the way it looks like that, kind of like flat, like a male chest. If I don't bind, I feel weird. I feel strange.
Very relatable. Boo!
On their first day at the retreat, they'll spend time getting to know each other.
Oh, is there like an itinerary? A schedule?
But Drew won't come out until she thinks she looks perfect.
I feel like I'm actually like decent enough to actually go out.
She's got very good makeup skills. She has spent time practicing the art
but I don't care.
of the cosmetics.
There's one more vital element to Drew and Donna's morning routine. Both have been taking the female hormone estrogen for 2 years. It's made massive changes.
There's Valeriate.
I think with like
there
hormones,
she is.
they make you feel more comfortable. Because before, like, you're not on hormones, you just feel like a boy.
Especially with like breast growth and things like that. That really helps. That gives you a whole different lease of life, doesn't it?
Yeah. You can really feel like all the breast tissue inside, because I thought they were right soft, but when you feel mine, quite.
Yeah, mine are soft, but apart from in.
I've never felt boobs before.
Well, exactly.
Like, I don't know if that's what they're supposed to feel like.
Now, I've had breast growth, my skin's got softer, my hair's gone really nice, and, you know, to be a bit vain, that's quite nice. I would like some other things, though, maybe a boob job. Bigger bum would be nice.
A BBL, girls!
Hello.
How are you?
I'm alright.
Are you ready for your shot?
Yes.
Upstairs, there's some male bonding going on.
Wait, is that a top that says XX Man? I love that.
I hate smashing these little vials. Like, do you think I'd cut my fingers sometimes to it over?
It is, I just want to say, it is kind of strange that we don't offer injectable estrogen on the NHS in the UK, when then you also wouldn't need to use an anti-androgen, because the estrogen would provide that effect. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. Also, I was thinking about this the other day. Testosterone is a scheduled drug, but estrogen isn't. So it's like, it's just weird that the masculine hormone is perceived more important than the feminine hormone in order to gatekeep it. I'm not sure. It's very, very interesting. Very interesting. Sometimes I do like to overanalyze situations and read a bit much into it, but someone somewhere decided to schedule it and decided not to schedule estrogen. So what does that say? Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
That's what makes me a man, and without that, I would still look female. I wouldn't have facial hair.
What is it? Sustanon?
I wouldn't have.
It's Sustanon 250, girls. 1 injection a week.
Of facial hair.
Or is it once a month?
I wouldn't be as muscular. My voice would still be very, very high. Well, it's meant to increase your sex drive, but I've always had a big sex drive anyway, so...
True, T.
Without hormones, I never would have been able to pass as a man. I would never have been able to experience and grow in my kind of male identity.
It's almost like, in some way, practicing the forbidden art of shape-shifting. It just takes a long time and it's not overnight, like a werewolf.
It was probably the most important part of my medical transition.
By injecting testosterone, the boys are forcing their bodies to go through male puberty.
Bacteriostatic water.
It has the effect they want, but it's like a second adolescence.
Yes.
I do think it really affects my mood, but I certainly notice that it affects my skin. So we'll be like spotty and grumpy at the same...
Why do we prescribe Sustanon? I wonder why the first line of hormone treatment for trans men is technically a testosterone replacement instead of something less intense like nandrolone or anavar. I wonder why it's Sustanon.
Cool, that's perfect.
About there, yeah.
In the bum,
where to do it,
intramuscular.
Yeah.
You ready?
Yeah.
Yes,
do it
also
about
where
there.
you do
Okay, so all in,
cryptoralium.
okay, dead fast. Okay.
Oh!
Okay, cool. That didn't hurt at all, actually.
Fox has got the magic touch, eh?
Very good.
You done it already?
Yeah.
Well done.
You're fast, aren't you? When my mum does it, she takes ages because she's trying to get everything right. She's like...
Outer quadrant of the gluteal muscle.
Well...
Another one? Oh no.
Oh, it's a good job I've got a big ass. There you go.
Sting.
Do you want a
A little
plaster?
sting. Quick scratch.
Just wiggle, make sure it's in.
Alright.
Yeah.
Oh, isn't it funny what we do to be happy?
Yeah.
It's mid-morning, and they've got together to talk about the drugs they're taking to
Ooh.
make them into men and women.
I took so many hormones, I turned into a fanny. It was like, do you know what I mean? Just everything was just emotional. It's like, you're watching television. Oh, you know, I really like her jumper. It's really nice.
Oh my God, Donna, that is completely relatable. So before I was on estrogen, my emotional range was limited to like this much, if you can imagine. When I started estrogen, it began to grow like this. And if I dropped something unexpectedly, I'd be like, the end of the world, I'm so upset, and immediately burst into tears. It's actually very freeing to be able to experience like a full emotional range. For me as a trans woman, anyway, that was like a very unexpected shift. Like you can read about what HRT effects are going to be like the physical effects, and maybe like slightly read about how it changes the way you think or how it changes your mental health. But to actually experience it is a very different subject.
Start crying, and you're like, where has this come from?
When I first started testosterone, it took me
still
ages
can't.
before I could... I don't know, it was weird. There was one time when I felt really upset, I felt like I needed to cry, you know, to get it out, and no tears came out. I was like, what's up with me?
I do worry sometimes, especially when I'm in situations with women that, you know, like where we're arguing or discussing, I feel like I've become very like bloody single-minded, you know? Like I know what I'm saying, and this girl that I used to live with, she'd be like, you're bullying me, and I'm like, I'm not bullying you, you're not listening to what I'm saying, and I'm like, I am listening, but I'm right, you're not listening to me.
You're such a man.
You know, whereas before, as a woman and as a lesbian, no, we'd sit down and we'd have a cup of tea, and we'd listen to each other.
Emotional shift is real. Oh, look at the house. Oh, I wonder where that is.
There's a lot of
Where is
laughing and
that?
joking going on today, and transitioning can be quite isolating and hard and really, really not funny.
Everyone wants to be part
It's
of
so
the
nice to meet
community.
these people that just kind of take the lighter side of life.
Wine.
What I love about it is the fact that I've
so
got
much
people to
wine.
support me who are like me, and all my like worries have just gone out the window.
No, Sarah's room is smaller than mine.
They'll kind of make a group together, which is nice. It's a good bunch of black sheep in a way.
Oh, it's nice, isn't it? My transsexual summer at the summer house. Like, there's even a water mill. Oh,
It's Saturday
copyright
afternoon
music.
at the retreat, and most of the group are messing about on the river.
Oh, messing about on the river. Let's go take estrogen out in the lake.
Help me!
Oh, Jesus.
Such hard work being on a boat.
Overboard.
I'm exhausted.
I think that's that one there, I think.
Tomorrow, Karen will leave early for hospital to have gender reassignment surgery. Her penis will be inverted to give her the vagina she has always wanted.
People say to
penile
me, you're brave,
penile
I really
inversion
admire what
bother.
you're doing, but it's not courage. It's a belief in yourself that you're doing something that you know you've got to do, basically.
Karen felt she was female from the age of 9, but spent her life fighting it. She actively sought out traditional male roles, working as a truck driver and a policeman.
This is a very common story.
I've always tried to do jobs that would take the female away from me. And it is because you're trying to hide, you're trying to become normal.
Yeah.
I was in relationships as a bloke. I got married and did all the normal things that blokes are supposed to do, but I just didn't feel right. I'm just a woman. It's a woman that I should have been when I was a lot younger, a lot younger.
Finally, at the age of 49, Karen decided to change her gender permanently. Tomorrow's operation comes after 2 years of tough psychiatric assessment.
Yes.
It's major invasive surgery, and it can go wrong. But I hope it doesn't.
No.
I want to wake up. We have heat.
Yes, this is the thing. Whenever you go for surgery such as, it was referred to as gender reassignment surgery there. It's actually now known as gender confirmation surgery. And it used to be known as SRS, which is sexual reassignment surgery. So now the waiting list on the NHS is extremely long, but you do have to go through intense psychological evaluation. It's not just pop to your doctor and say, I feel like this, let's do something about it, like next week, done. Not like that at all. It takes years. And if that part of your body is causing you dysphoria, that is years of extra mental anguish. And that is something that's like very difficult to deal with in a lot of cases, which is why we have some pretty gnarly statistics in the trans community for multiple different reasons. One of those is medical gatekeeping. Another one of those is social stigma. If people make you feel shit because you're trans, eventually that's going to take a toll on you, especially if you, as has been spoken about in this episode so far, feel isolated. The worst thing to happen to you if you feel isolated is to be surrounded by people that are unsupportive. You can feel more lonely around unsupportive people than you can just by yourself.
Oh, God.
Oh, she's in the Arga, the woman in the Arga.
Hello.
I've read a lot about the procedures and stuff like that. But, like, what do they actually do?
They cut down the penis.
Yeah.
They use the skin on the outside and a tip of the top of the penis as the clitoris. So they keep all the nerves.
So this is penile inversion
for
method.
That becomes a clitoris, and then they punch a hole between, I think, your bladder and your colon, and put the penis skin inside the hole. So that becomes your vagina.
Yeah. I know people say it works like a natural vagina, but does it like self-lubricate, or do you have to use the...
Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. You just get a bit of KY jelly or Aquagel or whatever and just use that.
So there is actually a lot of discussion around these surgical methods. There are multiple different ways that a penis can be changed into a vagina through surgical procedures, and there are certain types of outcomes you can expect from certain different types of procedures. And also, over time, they change as well. There have been cases reported of trans vaginas becoming self-lubricated years after the surgery, because the body actually starts to recognize it as an invagination. The body! Amazing!
But not every transgender person wants genital surgery.
Yes.
And Drew's not sure whether it's right for her.
Yes, it isn't right for
Having a
everyone,
penis
and it's right for
doesn't
others.
feel right for me.
Before, that was how I felt. But I think I'm more comfortable with myself now that it's not an issue. Like, no one has to see it apart from me. And, you know, whoever I'm with.
With me, I don't want no one else to see that, because that's not part of me. That's how I see myself. It's weird, isn't it?
No.
It's like I'm in a bath. I don't want to see it.
It's not
I don't
weird,
want
it's...
to look at it. It's not going to change me as a person, but it's going to make my inside feel a lot happier. So maybe it will change me a bit.
This is exactly the point about gender confirmation surgeries, is that usually trans people, or even cis people that undergo gender confirmation surgeries, like breast implants or a nose job or chin implants or something like that, they all are aiming towards the same outcome, which is your inner happiness or your inner quality of life to be increased. So cis people get gender confirmation surgeries all the time, and they do not have to go through the immense amount of gatekeeping that trans people do. I mean, I'm a personal believer in that every plastic surgery or every cosmetic surgery should come with an amount of therapy or psychoevaluation to make sure that you're actually, like, A, getting it for the right reasons, and B, that you're actually, like, in a good mental health position to recover, because recovery from the surgeries is more often harder than actually having the surgery itself. Depending on what type of surgery you get, if you have to go under general anaesthetic itself will send your mood swings all over the place, girls. And if you aren't armed with ways of managing those dark times, then you're gonna really internalize them and there might be regret, there might be revisions needed. Like, there's so many variables involved. That's the one thing that I'm actually really proud of to have as my bank of work here on YouTube. It's kind of been very plastic surgery heavy in the last few years, but I feel like together with me and you and watching all these shows, we've been able to kind of almost distill a way of like advising and making sure that you're doing the things for the right reasons, if you know what I mean. Like, I feel like through watching these shows and through listening to people's stories in the comments, I was able to cope with my own journey a lot better when it came to surgeries.
Well, we'll find out, won't we?
Yeah, we'll find out, won't we? Definitely.
Q-tips!
By late afternoon, everyone's getting ready to celebrate Karen's last night out before surgery.
Ooh!
Okay, what shirt
What
are you
does
actually
that
gonna wear?
mean?
I don't know, actually.
All right, let's have a look then.
But Lewis is having a wardrobe crisis.
Oh no.
There's
A
10 different
crisis.
kinds of plaid here, so...
My mum
Lots
usually
of
irons my
plaid shirts.
Well, I iron my t-shirts, but like shirts are a bit complicated, aren't they? Like, I need to get away from my room.
steamy.
I think. Just get.
You need to grow the fuck up, mate.
As the girls get ready, Drew wants to give Sarah a helping hand.
I'm gonna do my best to give Sarah a makeover.
Oh, she's an
Just to kind of show her some things that
artista.
she can do. You know, because she doesn't know much about makeup, so... Yeah, right.
What?
You excited?
Yeah.
I'm well nervous.
Right, here we go.
I don't want to hurt you. How long
Plucking
have you
eyebrows
been
is a very strange
transitioning?
experience. I always sneeze.
A month?
Yeah.
Have you got anyone to, like, help you then?
No.
Really? No.
If you are a beautician or a beauty practitioner here in the comments, my loves, and you enjoy my content, if you advertise your business as trans-friendly, you are going to have clients for life, regardless of what type of beauty service that you offer. You are going to have clients for life. Those clients are going to go out and they're going to find their friends and also bring them to you, my lovelies. Serving trans people in the beauty sphere is so lucrative, it is unreal. And you'll also be doing a wonderful service to the community. So if you run a little Instagram page or you're a little LLC girly, make sure you show your pride and show your support, my lovelies, because you'll have a career forever.
No one really knows.
See, I've got my family, so...
See, my family don't really talk to me very much. I'm not looking for acceptance from them. I just want to inform them of my decision. I don't want to hide it from them. So how did you come out to your parents then?
Well, I didn't actually come out to them.
Yeah.
They came to me. Like, I got so depressed to the point where I tried to kill myself.
Yeah.
One night, my mum went, "Are you gay?" And I just said no. And she went, "Do you want to be a girl?" And I just started crying. If I'd have known what I know now then, I would have come out when I was like 8.
That's a story that resonates with me.
Then.
Me and Drew have quite a lot in common.
I used to dance to Spice Girls, getting all the girls and be like, "Come on, I'll be Mel C."
Sarah's had a bit of a makeover.
Which ready?
Oh, here she is, girl, the bombshell.
Damn.
Oh, she looks. Oh, that little fringe.
I'll come over
That little fringe.
I feel really good now.
Sometimes you just need a couple of to give you a hand.
It feels strange.
Sometimes you do.
To be feeling good about myself.
A fringe, yes. A fringe, yes. Every time. Love it.
When I arrived, I said I looked like a crap in a bad wig. Well, I don't feel like that anymore.
Oh, good.
I actually
Development.
like myself again.
Community support is so required, no matter what walk of life you're from. It's so
This
valuable.
is Karen's last chance for a night out for a while.
A camo print miniskirt.
look, I
Oh, dead now.
Cheers to new friends, I think.
Yeah, I think it's
New friends.
I'm looking
To new fresh
You can all
champagne,
put
to
makeup
new
on
friends.
and your boys can shave and us girls can
shave.
At 52, Karen's the first to admit she's dressing like a younger woman.
That's cute.
But she's just making up for lost time.
I just love being female, getting dressed up, heels. I love low-cut tops, showing my body off maybe a little bit too much sometimes for my age, but I have fun.
I think that's an important part to remember, is having fun. This is a phenomenon that happens with us trans women, that sometimes, because we've been repressed for so long, when we have the access to, like, dressing how we want to dress, sometimes we do go a little bit teeny bopper, regardless of how old we are. We go a little bit, like, to the extreme. I've been a bit guilty of that sometimes, but I will say that your style refines over time. You're not going to be the same person at 20 as you are at 40, and the same for beyond those ages. It's a really interesting point because you're kind of learning everything from scratch.
I'm just enjoying my
Oh, look at
life
those mirrors.
as a
That's
woman,
such a cute little
as
idea.
long
Loads of
as
mirrors
I'm on this
together.
planet.
Get glam.
Lift your head up.
Lewis is enjoying his share of male grooming.
Oh.
Lean back.
A nice woman shaving you.
Yeah. It's taken a while.
Oh, I hate watching shaving.
Before, laser and stuff like that. I had
Eviscerated.
quite thick facial hair. It was horrible. Really hated it. It was about as thick as yours, actually.
Watching other people put their makeup on is a bit like watching paint dry. The amount that they're using as well.
I love the cosmetics. Is that a limo? See, that's a lovely outfit. This is probably copyright music.
We are gonna have a
Right, a night out. Okay, here we go.
The group have finally made it to London's West End. And even in Soho, they make for a striking sight. Some of them are loving the spotlight.
You're amazing. Look at you. Her legs. Sorry. And her boobs. Yeah. And her face. Sorry. And your boobs as well.
But being in a big group attracts attention.
Yeah,
And it's making it
that's a very interesting point to have, is that sometimes if a load of trans people go out together, they do attract attention. And I know that sometimes the girlies are well-intentioned like there, but very much it comes sort of down to being mollycoddled a little bit. Like, I don't really feel like I want to have someone be like, look at you, look what you're doing, what lovely boobs, and look at your face and your shoes, look at you. I quite often say to myself, I don't dress for men, I dress for the compliments in the girls' bathroom, because that's kind of true. Sometimes it's nice when you hear someone be like, I love your dress. It's like, thank you. Me too. That's why I'm wearing it. Like, that's really cute. But then there is a certain type of, like, ultra allyship that kind of turns into like, oh, you've clocked me. And actually what you're saying is like, you're going so far out of your way to try and make me feel comfortable that you've made me feel uncomfortable, actually. You know what I mean? Clocked, if you don't know, is a term in which a person may realise that you are trans without you disclosing to them.
Easy for people to see that they're transgender.
If you're a big group of trans, if some people are more obvious than others, then it points everybody else out. People pick up on things they usually wouldn't pick up on.
When there's a group of 7 people, and 4 of them are girls that are over 6 foot, and one of them's a guy that's not passing and really unhappy and uncomfortable with it, it's the anti-stealth, right?
It is anti-stealth, it definitely is.
Oh, contact lenses.
I know when I start talking it's a bit anti-stealth, you know. Oi.
Anti-stealth, there we go.
It's not long before an incident occurs that shows how quickly things can turn.
Oh, especially drunk people.
You see that guy over there? Yeah! He's gonna get one tonight! Yeah!
Sarah just slid into him. You can fuck me, darling. And he was just like, whoa, 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 whoa. It was amazing. It was like, who needs security when you've got Sarah?
I think you have to be careful saying those sort of things to them.
Yeah.
I've narrowly escaped a few sort of rules before, but luckily I'm quite good at talking, so I can get out of it. But I think
when you're new
it
as
was
well,
fabulous.
it's still a novelty. But when you've been doing it for 2, 3, 5 years, it gets exhausting. And
Yes,
it's not worth
Max.
it. But when you're
Yes.
still coming out, you want to fight every battle. Sarah, you're my
Yes.
hero.
You're a
There is definitely a skill to be learned in like picking your battles. The thing is, when alcohol's involved, like alcohol is an inhibition, what's the word? It reduces your inhibition. So quite often in cases where people are very drunk, questions will be asked and things will be done that potentially wouldn't be done or asked when they are sober. So that's always something to remember, is that like, unfortunately as trans people, sometimes we have to be hyper aware of where we are and what we're doing, because if you let your guard down for a second, that can be quite devastating. They do look like they're having a lovely time in Soho. Oh, a cork wedge. Love that. A tote bag. Blah, blah, my transsexual summer. Oh, look at the countryside. I need to live in the countryside. I want to move into that lake, the Lady of the Lake. Oh, is it the nights after,
Sunday
the day
morning,
before?
And there are sore heads at the retreat.
Yeah.
Are you feeling fresh?
I so enjoyed last night.
Did you?
After just 2 days
I
at the
do
house,
not miss
Sarah's
hangovers.
feeling better about her future.
I had a really good night. I had a really, really good night last night. It was like a rebirth, you know? It was like a new evolution of me, and just, it was like a new lease on life, I felt. It was really good.
While Max cooks breakfast,
I love it.
Karen's getting ready
Not
for the
beans.
most important doctor's appointment
Oh,
of
yes.
her life. She's about to leave for Charing Cross Hospital in London.
Oh!
The day before the operation,
The
I thought
GIC.
I'd be a little bit, I don't know, a little bit sort of jumpy or frightened, but I'm not. I'm so calm. It's been a lovely weekend and met some great new friends. That might have taken some of the pressure off, but I am so ready for this operation. I really am ready for this operation.
Wow.
You alright?
Oh, yeah. Right.
Isn't surgery
Oh, yeah.
wild, really? Just bonkers.
Are you all packed up?
Yeah, I've got towels, pads for after the operation. My first feminine stuff.
Is any of your family coming to
I don't think so. I don't really see much of my family, really. I mean, I've got a daughter, but I've not seen her for years.
Why
At least
not?
20 years. I got divorced in '85. I used to see my daughter every weekend, up to the point where my ex-wife got remarried and moved away, a long way away.
Does it upset you?
I find it hard because I've not had any contact with her for so many years, and it's going to be so difficult facing her.
But do you think that day will come?
Hope so. I know I'm going to blub like hell if I do see her. I don't know what to say to her. I really don't know what to say to her. I really don't.
At least she knows that you love her, though.
I do think that transitioning later in life does present its own unique challenges that I am not qualified to talk about because I haven't experienced them. All I can think of is that it requires a certain amount of like self-preservation to want to achieve something. I do feel like it's quite a difficult journey to navigate, transitioning later in life, perhaps when you've already had like year-long commitments to family and to producing like children and raising them and things like that. Like it does really present its own unique struggles. I am so like, I just can't relate because it's something that I've never gone through. I was privileged enough to realize at a younger age and be able to undergo an amount of my journey. Even though I was technically a little bit older, I was in my mid to early 20s when I actually began my transition. So I was still, you know, puberty had finished. I was an adult, like I transitioned as an adult. It's a different like set of challenges that you face. And I think it's something to remember. It's actually quite sort of difficult to hear there because there are so many more bridges that require like care and attention than if you are just by yourself as a younger person, I think.
And hopefully...
Oh, very emotional. Being trans is very emotional. Community, it's so important.
You're setting me off now.
God, I'll do my makeup again. Sod it.
Waterproof mascara. Estee Lauder Double Wear. A halo eye.
Drew and Donna help Karen get ready to leave. The next time they see her, she'll have the body she's always wanted.
Oh, what a
I think we should all get
journey!
your number and text you tomorrow.
I mean, you know what I'm going to text you? How's your vag?
How's your vag?
Bloody hurting.
Oh my god, how cool would it be if you wake up tomorrow and not only you have a vagina, but it's been vajazzled as well. Wake up and it's all like diamond-y.
Not a vajazzle.
And they pull the sheet up and it's like...
Vajazzle was not the word I was expecting to hear in this show.
Vajazzle.
Vajazzle. A vajazzle.
Good luck for your
Goodness me.
Really glossy drag. Yeah. Change, yeah. So much
This is the part of the journey we have to undertake by ourselves.
Good luck, eh?
Let's go, lads.
Are they gonna pop the food?
Bye, girls, boys.
Go on, Karen.
She's so brave.
I know.
That's amazing. Emotional.
Oh, fading into the forest. There she is, Charing Cross.
Karen's a
Theatre.
patient of the Gender Identity Clinic at Charing Cross Hospital.
Yes.
They perform
It's
4
still there
gender
now.
reassignment operations a week.
At the end of the day, this is the first
I don't think that's the case anymore.
I'm reborn today. Totally reborn.
Totally reborn.
Surgeon James Bellringer has performed over 800 vaginoplasties.
I didn't
one of the most
expect to see James
controversial
Bellringer
procedures
in this.
available on the NHS.
We often get criticised, why are you doing this operation, which is cosmetic, it's not life-saving. But
It is
actually, if you look at
life-saving.
it in terms of quality of life, we have probably the best operation there is. Move the hand over a bit.
Right, here we go.
That's it, lovely, thanks. These patients before the operation are miserable. So an operation which theoretically costs £10,000 is delivering 40 years of very much improved quality of life. There's no cancer operation delivers that much.
Yes, that's... He's on the ball. Oh, surgery. I didn't expect Channel 4 to be showing that.
Just finished dissecting the cavity. That's the space for the new vagina made. Once I stop the bleeding, I'm going to remove the testicles, which are there and there.
Wow.
Now the testicles are sitting in a pot over there. We've certainly gone irretrievable. You can't sew those back on.
Yeah, removed. Orchiectomy? A pussy, girls! All right, come on. Here she is.
Oh, God.
Oh, hit by a truck, sis. That's what it feels like when you wake up from surgery.
Back at the retreat, Karen's family situation has got everyone thinking.
I did not know that Karen had a daughter.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. Well, she has no contact with her.
I'd love Karen to be my
Are we
mum.
spilling tea?
How cool would that be?
Yeah. She's very motherly.
She is. Yeah, she'd make a good mum.
That'd be amazing.
One of the hardest things about changing gender is how to tell the people you love.
My family don't know about me yet.
They've never seen you like this, have
No,
they?
I want to tell them next week, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Have you given it much thought about how they'd respond to that? Or
Yeah, I'm pretty sure my dad won't have anything to do with me, or my older sister, or my younger brother.
And you should do it for you.
Exactly.
And their response should kind of be secondary.
You're telling them.
As long
Agreed.
as you do something.
Yes, that's the tea. You're telling them, not asking them.
Yeah, for sure. I want to show my mum how happy I am. The world's full of colour again. The rest of my life is going to be good. You know, she's seen me go through.
Oh,
a
not
string
ketchup
of
on peas.
girlfriends, jobs. She's seen me depressed. She's seen the scars. I want to tell her it's over now. Even if they cut me out and don't talk to me ever again. At least I've told my
Self-preservation.
mum I'm happy.
Brilliance is built in times of difficulty. Oh! Easier said than done, though.
Over just 48 hours, 7 trans people have started to become a group of friends.
Wait, are they leaving the house? They don't get to stay there?
Yes, Luxeria. Please pay attention.
What I think I've got out of the weekend is just 6 new amazing people in my life.
See, I'd love that
When I get
experience.
back home, people will notice a big change.
Right,
Obviously,
so they
before
go
I came
back home,
here,
do they come
if I
back
saw
again?
someone looking at me, I'd be like, oh, they're looking at me because they know I'm a man. Whereas now I think I'll just think that they might look at me because they fancy me.
They each had their different reasons for coming to the retreat.
Oh.
But now they have to go back to the pressures of changing gender in the wider world.
The strength that I've seen from these people is just, it's phenomenal. I really see the struggle that they go through, and there's so much humour and so much lightness as well. I'm just so happy
trans
to be
people are
part of this.
hilarious.
It's great.
We are hilarious. Just watch any ContraPoints video as an example.
This first weekend has been a great success.
The first weekend, okay, so they
But
are
it's
coming
only
back.
the beginning.
Oh!
Next time.
Oh, no. Pause. I've got some thoughts, my lovelies. So, my lovelies, I have some thoughts about what we've seen in today's episode of My Transsexual Summer. I am genuinely quite shocked at how respectful this show is. Sure, there was a couple of moments where I don't think the language was as inclusive as it could have been, but this show would never be produced in this way now. We would have professionals on there being like, oh, the other side of the trans debate. Our existence is not up for debate. We exist. We're now going to discuss how we can approach healthcare and social care. Like, that is just wild to me to think that this show that came out 12 years ago and was probably produced or recorded a year before that, so potentially 13 years ago, is more respectful of the trans plight than anything that we see in this day and age. That is so wild to me, and I feel like it really highlights just how far things have fallen in the last handful of years alone. I know this is very bizarre and potentially irrelevant information, but even when Theresa May stood for re-election in the UK Tory government, the point about reforming the gender recognition certificate to make it easier for people to identify, for people to self-ID, was a point of goodness in the Tory manifesto. It was actually oh, we're going to make it easier for trans people. And that was in 2017, 2018. Literally 5 to 6 years ago, things were actually being moved in a more progressive, more respectful way. I feel like this Pride Month especially, I have become hyper aware of performative supporting, and also just how toxic the conversations around the LGBT and queer community have become, because it's just wild to me to think that potentially television shows were made more respectfully 12 years ago than they are made now. I am absolutely thoroughly enjoying exploring these people's stories with them, and I feel like it was done in a very respectful way, in a way that's invited the viewer to experience something they wouldn't necessarily do, rather than be almost look at the freak shows, which I feel like now is how it would be presented. This is wild, and I'm so excited to continue through this series. I hope that you guys are also very interested in this series as well. Very different for something on My Chanel, but also something with a little bit of personal investment, because I've seen my own story mirrored in these people's stories too. So yes, my loves, let me know in the comments box below what you think about what we've seen in today's episode, and I'm very, very, very excited to continue this series. And with that, my loves, it's time for the Patreons. Little Biscuit is falling fast asleep on my lap. Look. Oh, little biscuit. Sorry, am I keeping you awake? Oh, is it because you want to stay up all night and softly huff at me? Is that what you want? You can see your name scrolling through on the screen right here, my lovelies. And as always, I want to say a massive thank you to my top tier Patreons. Orcos Samoji, Beebles32, Shell Herman, Christy Crownover, Christina Kyle, ContraPoints, Danielle, Elizabeth Stone, Eric Castillo, Fable and Flourish, Jamie Clark, Jen Martin, Jenabeth Herman, Jin Woo Choi, Caitlin Wright, Laura Jane again, Les Banana, Lizette Cares, Millie Hammond, Min TM, Mariah Sherman, Novembrix, Paola Rivera, Ryan Vita, Slampire Queen, Steffutech, The Chaos Collective, Victoria Corella, and Zoe Sevier. And you know what, my loves? I'm gonna leave it on the note of not every trans person you might come across may be at a position or in the mood to educate you on perhaps some questions that you wouldn't necessarily ask someone's mother. So just keep that in mind when you're navigating the world, that not every trans person wants to be an educator at the drop of a hat. And with that, my lovelies, I'll see you in the next one. Oh yes.